Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Backstage Online MBA event with Poets and Quants. My name is Nathan Allen. I am a staff editor here at Poets and Quants, and have a great panel this afternoon for us. So I'm just going to do a quick introduction of who we have here, and then I'm just going to go ahead and jump right into it. So from the University of Florida, we have John Gressley, who is the Assistant Dean and Director there. I'm assuming of online MBA programs, but you can correct anything I mess up whenever we first start answering the questions. And then we have Laura Tremaine, who is the Assistant Director of MBA Admissions and Student Recruitment from the University of North Carolina Kenan-Flagler Business School. And then we have Larissa Lavrov, correct that, Associate Director of Admissions and Recruiting at the University of Minnesota's Carlson School of Management. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. It's great to have you all. This is a good panel because we've got some schools that have been doing the online MBA for a while, and then we've got some newbies to the game. So let's start simple. First question, just let us know a little bit about your program, when you all launched, what sort of flexibility you offer, and how long it takes to complete the program. John, let's start with you.
Excellent. Happy to do so. Great to be here. So here at the University of Florida, Warrington College of Business, we actually have two online MBA formats. We have a one-year program designed for students that have an undergraduate degree in business, as well as a two-year format. We've been doing both of those formats since all the way back in 1999. We launched back when online was known as VHS, which was pretty exciting for us. But we used to ship out videos and they'd watch them and then log on to our remote platform. And we've evolved with the technology from VHS to DVD to iPads to iPods, and now we're doing streaming like everybody else. We are fully asynchronous with one required visit at the beginning of the program for orientation, as well as several optional touch points over the course of that program if you want to come to campus and network and get to know folks. The 32 credit program takes about 16 months to complete, and the 48 credit program takes about 2 years.
Great, awesome. Larissa, let's move to you next, one of the newer programs.
Yeah, so the Carlson Online MBA has been in existence since about September of 2016 as a part-time distance program, and it was rolled into a more formalized online program, I would say, in fall of 2019. The program itself runs in parallel with our part-time program, that it's the same credit number, credit hours required. It's a 52 credit program with a lot of flexibility for working professionals. It can be completed in 2.5 years or up to 7 years. And that 7-year timeline really accounts for that work-life balance and literally taking one class a semester. So it's really, really very flexible in terms of pacing and what classes you can take. It is a fully asynchronous online program. We do have 2 residency requirements, the first being orientation, where you can come and meet the faculty, meet your classmates, and talk with the people that you will be working with throughout your time in the program. And the second residency requirement can be done either by taking a class on campus through a week-long residency, or by participating in our required global experience. So we also require all of our students to do some form of study abroad. And we have a lot of different opportunities for that as well. So this is definitely a longer program than John's program, but it is very robust in that it really does follow in line with our part-time curriculum as well as our full-time curriculum.
Right. Carlson, one of the most international schools in terms of offering so many international experiences to their students. Very cool. All right, Laura, let's move to you next. Tell us about the online MBA at UNC.
Sure. UNC launched their MBA program, original MBA program, in 1952. And then in 1986, we began our first executive MBA program. And then about 10 years ago, we launched the online MBA program. So our online program is built around the flexibility of our students. We offer 4 different start dates throughout the year in January, April, July, and October. And on average, we have about 125 students who start at a time. And so this number allows us to offer various range of different classes during different days and times to accommodate the schedules of our West Coast, East Coast students, and everyone in between and around the world. Students can complete the program in as few as 18 months and as long as 3 years. We have 5 different concentrations. We have finance, data analytics and decision-making, entrepreneurship, strategy and consulting, and marketing. Although most students choose to design their own path of courses with the help of their student success advisor, allowing them to take full advantage of the courses that are really of most interest to them and applicable to them on the job the very next day at work and down the line with all their career goals.
Great, thanks, Laura. And our new panelist just came on, Janice Kennedy from Rice University. Welcome, Janice. Janice is the Executive Director of Recruiting and Admissions. So the first question was just asking about the basics of the program, how long it takes, how flexible it was, how flexible it is, when it launched. And I think like Minnesota, you all are one of the newer programs.
Right. We just now have our first batch of alumni. So we're a far cry back from UNC in terms of our tenure on the online program. But we have a solid program that has 4 starts. We're in a quadmester approach versus our on-campus that's in the semester approach. And we do it in the evenings. We limit the number of people in the synchronous classes so that it's very productive. We say that no one will have a back row. And and then there's asynchronous. So it works for those who travel and people who just can't seem to get to campus on the daily or on the evening for our working professionals. And of course, it allows people outside of the Houston area to join our program. So it's a hybrid program. We have residential where the students come on campus and take an intensive learning experience, usually a weekend. And we recently had them on campus, so we're all happy to be back and thriving again beyond the virtual world. So that's why we call it a hybrid program, and it allows them to engage with the university on campus, with the students, with the services that we offer them as well.
Great, thanks for that, Janice. And just to be clear for the people who are new to online MBA, synchronous versus asynchronous, I think can be kind of confusing and it gets thrown around a lot. Synchronous is whenever you're meeting in class live, like we're doing right now with a group of people. And then asynchronous are the pre-recorded classes that you can watch at your own time in a nutshell. So we'll start this next question with Larissa and talking about just kind of the evolution of the program. So Larissa, you said that you all launched in 2016. What are some things that have already changed that you all have evolved with in the short 5 years that you all have been around?
Yeah, so the original iteration, like I mentioned, was part-time distance. So there was a little bit more of the in-person element that was required of the program. So we have transitioned to the fully online model with, like I stated earlier, with the 2 residency requirements. Orientation, I think, is incredibly important for students to come to. This is something that we really want to hang on to because that touch point with your advisor, that touch point with the Career Center, all of those things, we want to make sure that that's more robust and making sure that those areas are available even in a virtual environment. So over the past 18 months and even through the course of our program, because our students do have access to the Career Center as part of their program benefit, we've noticed that the Career Center is offering a lot more virtual panels. Even pre-COVID, we've had virtual coffee chats with our business development team. We are offering virtual treks. So much like our full-time students will travel to cities to go meet with potential employers, we're bringing them to the online and part-time students as well. So it's really been much more accessible. And I think the pandemic, truth be told, has kind of accelerated a lot of those things as well, and showcased how accessible this piece of networking can be to our students by opening up a lot more opportunities. So I think that we're just seeing more and more of those networking opportunities, but also growing the curriculum in tandem with that. So the addition of specializations and opportunities for our students to focus specifically in certain realms like supply chain or marketing or strategic management, and using that as an opportunity to really hone their skills in a meaningful and directed way. So really, really excited. And it sounds very horrible to say I was very excited to see what happened in the past 18 months with regard to accessibility. And I think that that's a huge thing, a huge takeaway, a huge positive. We should look at this from that perspective, especially for our students and the benefit to them.
Right, great, thanks. Laura, we will move to you next. One of the more established programs here today. What are some of the bigger evolutions since, the beginning of the program, and then more recently in the past 18 months since the pandemic began?
Sure. Well, our program continues to change and evolve really based on what we hear from our students and just trends in the business world and the world itself. So in terms of the pandemic, it had actually a very positive effect on our program in terms of our enrollment numbers. And we were just able to meet that demand with additional courses and creative solutions to our in-person gatherings. So for instance, right as the pandemic began, we were 1 week out from a summit weekend in Vancouver. So obviously, after making the decision not to go to Vancouver, to cancel those plans, our faculty made a quick pivot and within 5 days offered a virtual summit for the 139 students on the topic of COVID-19. So instead of exploring Vancouver as a business hub, we were exploring COVID-19 and its implications in real time. And to our knowledge, UNC was the first business school to offer a 4-credit course on the coronavirus. So I think that's pretty neat. Thankfully, as of this summer, we're again able to offer those in-person summits, which is really a highlight of the students' experience in the program. One other aspect, UNC Kenan-Flagler recently became a STEM designated program, placing a stronger emphasis on the data analytics and new courses in that curriculum. So I think that overall, we just want to make changes to the program based on what we're hearing from our students and just evolving to meet the needs of the changes going on in the business and the world.
Great, thank you. We'll move to Janice next. Same question, except at Rice.
Yeah, and you're going to hear much of the same because I think we can all admit that we've learned quite a bit about what can be done, what can be created, developed, rolled out quickly. And what I would say is I believe the pandemic brought our online students closer to the on-campus students. The divide wasn't there for us, but maybe they felt it because they weren't as engaged. But when clubs and everything else has online options, everyone can do that. So I think it's just allowed them to feel more like, it's just the same rice delivered in a different way, which it always has been, but they felt it. And I agree with Laura that we have responded to their requests. So changing the way we manage career for them and changing some of the services we do. But importantly, just as I'm sure everyone else is, the real-time learning and making sure that we're bringing in labs if it isn't ready for a class, to make sure that we're allowing our students to learn what's happening now, how to deal with it now, because they're working professionals and want to turn around and make it happen. So I think it's a lot of the similar stuff, but finding what's best that we learned from the pandemic and implementing it.
Right. Yep. Thanks. And yeah, some of these questions can be tougher to answer at the end once everyone has gone through, but I wanted to save the last one for John because, starting in 1999, I think he painted a great picture for us with sending out VHSs at the beginning and then, growing along with the internet as it developed and as new technologies popped up. So John, what are some of the highlights, the evolutions that you all have seen in the online MBA program at the University of Florida? And then if you want to talk about, more recent ones since the pandemic, go for it as well.
Certainly. So I echo a lot of the sentiments of my peers here. We've seen a lot of change and we've responded and we've gone through it all. So we started with a required visit. We had synchronous meetings at the beginning of the terms and the end of the terms, and those weekends were shared. And that was partly because in the early aughts, we were fighting the legitimacy of what an online MBA would look like. And so we had people come to campus. They had that hybrid brick and mortar, but we were still delivering over 85% of coursework asynchronously and at a distance. And so as we grew, we figured out that we had a lot of people that were seeing their dogs eat their homework right around that visit before Christmas. And we said, you know what, it's not about being here anymore as we approach the teens, it's about being present and having that high level engagement. So that was when we really started to move more toward the asynchronous version, to having these optional residencies where we were doing immersive things with career services. We were doing networking events. We were trying to build it around some sort of a signature event that happens here on campus. And like a lot of schools in this group, it's an athletic event. And so, how do we give them that sense of being a Gator while also being able to do this within their busy lifestyles. And we started with 1 start a year, and now we're up to 3, like everybody else, in the sense where we're really doing it responsibly. And that's been a huge win for us in terms of staying relevant, staying effective to meeting the students' needs. And the really interesting thing, kind of like what Janice mentioned over the last 18 months, is we've seen the full-time program and the online program and our weekend professional programs really come together. And the portfolio approach has always been a part of the DNA here at the University of Florida Warrington College of Business, where we've had small cohorts and we've had a lot of them. So you get the benefit of a scaled network, but you don't have to go outside of your small cohort, and you get that intimate level of support from your classmates. And so when we had to spend all that time developing relevancy for our online program, when the pandemic hit, we were able to take all of that understanding that we built in the online space and apply it across the Warrington College of Business. And so everybody got the benefit of having had an online program for over 20 years. How do we do courses well? How do we do events well? How do we engage virtually? And so we saw that happen. We saw our entire population come together. We saw a lot more of that blending of our full-time or our professional students with our online students. Clubs became instantly more available, as Janice mentioned. So that was a really neat thing for us to see. And I, like my peers, you know, it was a great opportunity to really see the full value of an MBA, regardless of the modality.
Great. Thanks for that. This next one, we'll start with Laura on this next one. But, you know, especially in recent years, there have been so many online MBAs pop up from a whole bunch of schools. And, you know, 2 of the culprits are on here now, with Rice and Minnesota coming into the game. So I want to talk about key differentiators. What do you think are some of the biggest key differentiators to the program at UNC Kenan-Flagler?
Well, when you enroll at MBA at UNC, you're joining the UNC Kenan-Flagler family. And this really means that you are part of a huge network of Tar Heels with over 42,000 Kenan-Flagler alumni and more than 342,000 UNC alumni all over the world. And anywhere you move, you're going to find other Kenan-Flagler graduates and active alumni groups. And we hear this time and time again, how easy it is to make connections with these Kenan-Flagler MBA grads. I think that's because we attract people who are just supportive and very collaborative by nature. And our faculty are much the same way. We have world-class faculty, many who teach across all 4 of the MBA programs, and also adjunct professors who are expert practitioners within their individual fields. Our small class size, at most 18 people, allow for students to work closely with their professors and classmates and develop lifelong relationships and partnerships long after graduating from the program. Students love the quarterly summits we offer 2 times a year in Chapel Hill and 2 international. These in-person weekends allow the students to meet with their classmates face-to-face, dive deep into a topic, meet with career coaches, and explore Chapel Hill or a new area of the world. Our students are able to start the program at 4 different times throughout the year, ensuring that maximum flexibility and suitability for their work and life commitments. They begin the admissions process working closely with an admissions counselor, helping to really personalize the experience. And then once enrolled in the program, they're paired with a student success advisor who continues that personalized experience, helping them choose their courses and make those plans throughout the way. And then, of course, they have lifelong career coaching that helps keep them connected to their network to draw on and just take advantage of all the resources. So I would just say this personalized approach to our MBA keeps our Tar Heel family growing and attracting bright, motivated individuals from all different backgrounds and professions.
I like that alumni was your first reference with Michael Jordan there on your background. One of my favorite former North Carolina graduates. Janice, let's move to you. Let's move to you next. Same question, just key differentiators of the Rice program.
Yes, it's interesting because some of it is very similar, but coming at it in a different way. Because we're a small program, both our on-campus and online programs, our alumni network isn't quite as big as some of these other schools, but it's a very, very engaged alumni. So what we say about our alumni is that because it's small, everyone knows they have to do their part. So we find that our alumni are very accessible and ready to engage with anyone. So I think that's a key point that Rice has. I think that the connection, even remotely, to Houston being the most diverse city in the nation now, and with all the things that are happening in clean energy and all of that, it really connects them to what's going on, at least in that area. And many of the same things that Laura said, quite frankly. So there are online programs, and then there are online committed, on campus, delivered a different way program. And I think that's what we have, is our same on campus program delivered in a different way, which is a true commitment of the same rigor, the same degree, the same professors that lead it. We have success managers, just like Laura said. So I think when anyone's considering an online program, it's just make sure, is it just delivered online, or is it I'm going to be online? And I think that's the key. And I think these schools are certainly set up the same way.
Great, thanks. John, let's move to you next. Key differentiators of the Florida Online MBA.
Yeah, I think one of the great things about this conversation is that there are a lot of themes here that are fairly well shared among the programs. And 10 years ago, this was a much different conversation and a much more lonely group of people. And so the fact that we've kind of gotten to a point where there are some commonalities that's true of most MBA education, that's really a great thing to see. And having done this now for almost 15 years, it really is a great opportunity to talk about where the online program has come from. And what we are offering here at Florida is part of that length of experience, right? We have learned through the forging of how do we do this in a space that's not well defined. And it's nice to see small cohorts being an emphasis in a lot of places. It's nice to see that international opportunity, all things that have been hallmarks of the Florida MBA for a long time. And the alumni network, we have one of the biggest ones because we've been doing it the longest by virtue of being a large state school and also by virtue of having that length of experience. And there's a shared experience for anybody who goes through an online MBA program, having done it. And no matter how good we are, and we all like to think, I would imagine that we're pretty good at this, you still have tech problems. You still have all kinds of weird wrinkles that happen when you're an online program. And so you have that shared experience. You have that responsive staff who's there to help you when something goes wrong. And the good news is too, you've all still got that opportunity to share what it's like to be in a classroom experience. And it's virtual, but you still get that at Florida. And that's a big thing that we pride ourselves on, is that you get that shared experience and you have that commonality, but it means to be a UF MBA as well as what it means to be a Gator.
Great. Yeah, thanks. And to go back to my first point about getting crowded, I think one of the coolest things is you're seeing the quality of programs increase too, especially with the Rices and Minnesotas coming into the game. Some top business schools are really coming in right now into this space, which is cool to see. Larissa, how about at Carlson?
Yeah, so I will say that one of the things that I really find helps us stand out is the fact that, you know, with the intentionality of being a late entrant to the online space, it allowed us to make sure that our resources were available to all of our students. And we put a lot of things into place, and we're very intentional with maintaining small classroom sizes, be it in the virtual environment or for our on-campus residency requirements. Also ensuring that every online student has a academic advisor, but also a career coach if they wanted to utilize our career services. And that's something that we open up to all of our online students, all of our part-time students, and our full-time students. And so if folks want to come to campus to participate in on-campus recruiting, they can certainly do that because they're an MBA student at the Carlson School of Management. And that is something that we want to stress and impart to our students, is that they are part of you know, the Gopher lifestyle. And so we bring a lot of these events to them. You can participate in classes that are also cross-collegiate courses. Like we have new product and innovation courses that partner with our engineering school. So you're not just having your network within Carlson, you're having your network with the entirety of the University of Minnesota. Another thing that I find is it really helps strengthen our program is that in our elective spaces specifically, you're sharing the classroom with full-time, part-time, and online students. So you're sharing that knowledge base, that network with folks who may be doing a more traditional path than you, but it's not a different educational experience than you. And the faculty are shared and the resources are shared. And we want to make sure that our online students recognize that. So I think that those are some of the things that I find to be highlights, but, you know, much like everyone else, small classroom size, I think, is key. The value of your network is knowing your network. right? And so knowing everybody in your class, knowing people in your cohorts are going through is just going to add to that experience. And so through that, our classes, every single class requires group work. So be comfortable with that and be comfortable with expanding that network through group work and sharing. So.
Great, thanks. Before we move on, I just want to note to the participants here that if you all have any questions that you want to ask the panelists, we're open to that. So feel free to just put those into the chat and we can address those if they pop up. We'll start this one with Janice, and let's transition a little bit to more admissions focused questions, and just kind of start at the beginning with say I'm considering the online MBA versus maybe an executive or a part-time or even a full-time residential. How do I know the online MBA is right for me? And what are some things I should be considering when I'm considering, you know, the various options of taking the MBA?
Yeah, and yet another thing that was impacted by COVID is what program differences are there now, you know, but now we're back on campus. It's starting to clean up a smidge, but we do an event called Find Your Fit. Because quite frankly, it's a personal decision. It's not just the delivery. It's when do you learn best? What way do you learn? What is your schedule like? What is your family like? All those things that allow someone to see, okay, I probably can't make it to campus because I travel at night or travel some, you know, so we literally go down to, if you feel this, give yourself a point, you know, I mean, as general as that is, call it a, you know, a quiz to discern where you fit. Some instances, for example, are investment banking. We know that the rigor and the structure is so set up and so on campus and starts at the beginning that we don't recommend anyone interested in investment banking to join the online program. We have them, they do, many are successful, but it's not easy to do. So I think the transparency in what can be done and could be done and will be done is really the most important thing. I mean, nothing's more rewarding than hearing someone say, yeah, I signed on from 13 different countries while I got my MBA pre-COVID. So it's really the understanding again of what works for them. Some people really do better on their own, focused in the asynchronous world of really churning and learning. The other option with online that's fantastic is the recording. So if someone wants to go see something again. So we really spend time, but at the same time, our requirements are the same. We require GMAT, GRE, or executive assessment tests, or they can apply for a waiver based on experience in some of those. But our requirements for online are the same as our requirements for on campus, keeping that theme of the portfolio the same. So it's really just finding what fit is best for each person.
All right, John, let's move to you next. What advice do you have for people considering the online MBA versus some other versions of the MBA?
Absolutely. I think there's a couple of key points in there that you have to pull out that Janice made. One of them is it's really easy to think that this is flexibility. And while a lot of times the online MBA is a maximum flexibility kind of modality, it's a lot more complex than that. And so when we're talking to our students, we're talking about things like, how do you learn? What are your time commitments? Because it's not just a matter of I'm not sitting in Gainesville or I can't get to Gainesville on the weekend. It's about when are you going to be successful? Are you motivated? Can you drive yourself without that governor of having to sit behind a desk for an hour or two, depending on how long the class is, to be successful? Because we can provide all the support network in the world, but if you're not able to identify how you learn, how you're able to balance and manage your time, that's not going to work out. So when you're thinking about, is an online MBA right for me, you really should be asking yourself, am I going to be successful in an environment that's essentially self-paced? It's going to have a lot of feedback, but it's a lot of asynchronous feedback. It's not that bouncing ideas off of each other often. Even if you have some of those regular touch points like we do, it's still a lot of work on your own. And you do get the benefit of being able to go back and rewatch things, and that can be a huge win. And we've all learned how that can be great during COVID, as everybody's had some more flexibility to do that. It's still, you have to be that driven. You have to be that self-paced. And I think that's a great asset that a lot of folks undersell when they talk about having done an online MBA, is that you've really got to work harder in this space than any of the other formats, because you've got to drive and you got to do it yourself. And so you get a lot of that iron sharpens iron in this space. And that's a great win for an online program. And I think that's something you got to think about. The other is, what do you want to get out of it? Because a lot of times online MBAs are designed as part-time programs, and many of them have the outcomes that are different than, say, a full-time program. And we offer that career coaching like a lot of our peers do here. And our our goal is to help you get what you want out of the program, but you're not going to see the internship. You're not going to see those opportunities to really engage in those conversations about LDPs and things like that, because the value is you're already working. You're in a learning laboratory. You're in a place where you can apply what you're learning at the office and what you're doing in the office to what you're learning in the classroom. And that two-way street can be very impactful in an online space. So you got to figure out what you're trying to do. If you really want to switch from one industry to another, this is a tougher format to do that in. But if you're looking to leverage what you know and become a subject matter expert, or to move up into management, this can be an incredibly powerful accelerator, because you're going to be better on day one versus one of our other programs where that lags a couple of months until an internship or until graduation.
Great. Yep. Great advice. Larissa, let's move to you next.
Yeah, so not to reiterate a lot of really great points that both John and Janice have made already, but I will say that, one of the things that I do tell folks when they're talking to me about deciding between an online versus an in-person, it really comes down to, having a small existential crisis, right? Like, that what do I want to be when I grow up moment. Do you want to continue working? What's your relationship with your role, with your current position? Much like John said, are you looking to accelerate your role? Are you looking to, showcase your strengths in your current position? Are you looking to hit pause and really do a deep dive into a full-time program? So when you start to identify those things and understanding, okay, well, with an online program, you're not going to have structured time for a class. You're going to have to, carve out X amount of hours just to do the lecture videos. And then the old rule of thumb applies: for every credit hour, 2 hours of study time. So you have to really understand what your schedule is like, what your life is like, and what that balance is really going to mean to you in the long term. Depending on the flexibility of each of our programs, we're going to be able to offer different things for students. So if it is a more rigorous or a lockstep cohorted program, you might need to look at that from a different perspective than from, say, our program, which offers a little bit more flexibility in the timeline. So that helps you with those pros and cons. Deciding to do an online program, I always tell folks, if you plan on doing at least 75% of your classes online, an online program is a really good way to go. And that's by doing that deep dive into your work schedule. Do you travel a lot? Do you have a lot of evening events? Do you have a lot of weekend events? What does your life look like? Because at the end of the day, we're trying to maintain that work-life balance, and we're shoehorning school in there. And we want to make sure that it doesn't upset that balance, because we want you to leave a program successful, right? And whatever success means to you as a student, we want to be able to give you that, be it, employment through recruiting, be it an MBA, just that in and of itself is a success for people to prove to themselves that they can do this. So, that I think everybody so far has made a lot of really good points, but my goal is to always make people walk away with a conversation with me, having a small crisis, but bringing it all together and realizing what's going to be the best fit for them.
Yeah, great. Laura, anything else you would like to add?
Well, yeah, it's impossible to add on
Yeah.
to all these great things, because you guys really covered the bases. But I would say, it is just about having these honest conversations, and to tell them to have these honest conversations with their support systems, whether that be at work, their family, like really looking at the whole picture, because it is going to take a very supportive environment to get through any of these programs. So everyone really needs to be on board and think about those things. And I do think that the programs do offer different things. There's different specialties, different concentrations, different things that might be a focus on. So it's making sure that you've got a match for that too.
Great, thank you. So for the next question, we'll start with John on this one. But I'm wondering about, whenever you all are assessing applicants, looking at applications, if there are any things that are really compelling, any aspects that really stand out to you, what sort of things are you looking for in the online MBA application?
In this space, we're looking really closely at undergraduate GPA. We're looking at work experience, partly because those two things can give us some insight into how folks are going to do in the classroom and how they're going to advance with something like an MBA. So if you can take all those other factors into it, that's great. But at the end of the day, we start there, because if you've done a rigorous program at a rigorous undergraduate institution, that gives us an indicator that you can handle a rigorous environment like a distance or an online MBA. If you've got a good work experience and you've made some progressions in your career, it gives us some sense that you're actually moving forward and you're using the tools at your disposal. And so those two things can be really big indicators for us. And then outside of that, we're looking to shape a well-rounded cohort that's got a diversity of industry and a diversity of location and a diversity of, socioeconomic things. So that's kind of where we're at with that.
Great. All right, Larissa, same question. What are some things that you all are looking for in the application process?
Yeah, so actually Laura touched on this a little bit in her previous answer. It's making sure that you understand your program that you're applying to. We are not just acting as admissions committee selecting applicants. You are taking the time to select a program to apply to. There's a time element in this. There is a cost in applying to programs, be it taking a GMAT, GRE, TOEFL in some cases, and the application itself. So we look at a lot of factors. Yes, we look at the academic and work experience piece. We look at your recommenders. We want to make sure that those things are robust, but we want to hear your story. We want to make sure that you've done research into our program, know what we can provide to you and what you are going to contribute to our class, because it is a very collaborative environment. It is, as I mentioned earlier, every class has teams, even economics, you're in a group. And so it's important to recognize those things. It's important to recognize the ask that it will be made of you as a student, but also the ask that you can make of your classmates. What is your end goal in this? And so that personal statement really is the bow on the top of the package. It really just ties everything together from your experience of where you've been to where you want to go. So not to put too much pressure on the personal statement, obviously, but it's the only space that we have to contextualize you as a person. And I think that is an incredibly important element to the application, because a lot of those things that John mentioned, you can't really change. You can't go back in time and change your GPA. Your work experience exists as it exists. But this is that next step, that you're taking that leap off the cliff to go into the unknown. And we want to make sure that we're well equipped to support you in that process.
Great. All right, Laura, same question, but for UNC, Kenan-Flagler.
Sure. Well, we do a holistic review of the application, looking at everything from the undergraduate grades to the work experience, career progression, to essays, letters of recommendation. And we just really want to see a cohesive application that helps us truly understand the applicant's motivation for wanting an MBA, and specifically why UNC is a good fit to meet their goals. So we want to get a sense of how the applicant will contribute and benefit from our program and their classmates. Strong letters of recommendation from managers also help us really know who that applicant is from someone who knows them best. So, and we also do an interview with every applicant who submits an application. So all of these pieces really help give us a full picture of each applicant.
Great. All right, Janice, bring us
What's
on.
left?
Right.
No, all the same, certainly the full application, but there's something that I think, a couple of things that I think we really try to dig into as much as you can between the words and the lines and everything else is authenticity. Are you saying what you think we want to hear, or are we seeing the real you? And I think Larissa kind of spoke to that, because we're not only choosing you, but you're choosing us, but we also want to be stewards of your success. So are you the type person who John said will go get it done? And how can I see that as evidenced in your story, in your vision, in your, yes, you can't change work or GPA, but you can show up as a leader. You can be the type person that goes and does things outside of the lanes. So it's really just trying to read the whole piece and find out, is this person a fit for not just Rice, but for online at Rice?
Great. So next, I want to take that and just kind of flip it over to the negative side. What are some of the things that you all see that might be mistakes or red flags in an application? And then I don't want to keep it totally negative. So what's your advice for overcoming those sorts of things? And Larissa, let's start with you on this one.
Yeah, so I don't necessarily want to call anything a red flag, but I will say things that give me pause, right? Which will be unexplained gaps in work experience. And that can be remedied by our optional statement. So we offer a space for you to, again, contextualize pieces of your application. I will speak from my own personal experience, and I had a 0.7 GPA for my freshman year in 1997, right? I know 0.7 for the whole year. Everybody just appreciate that for a moment. And
you have to work hard to do that.
I really did. And for graduate school, I contextualize it. and I very briefly shared my experiences taking care of an elderly grandparent, right? And so that's what we're looking for, is for you to at least recognize some of these areas that might make us say, oh, I wonder what happened here, right? And it's not necessarily a red flag. It doesn't mean that anyone is any less than another applicant. We just want to know, again, what happened. Same thing for, we get some questions about what recommender should I choose? I don't want to notify my supervisor just yet, or of a new supervisor. Choose who you think is going to best represent you, but then also maybe tell us, I didn't choose my direct supervisor. They just started, 6 months ago. We don't have a long relationship. So there's nothing in an application that would so much not be able to be explained by an applicant either reaching out or adding it to their application in the form of an optional statement.
Great, thanks. Laura, let's move to you next.
Yes, I was going to say pretty much the same thing. So we have that third essay optional, and it's just essential to clear up anything that might be in question on your application. And, to choose those recommenders who really know you best, and making sure that they're professional in all cases, making sure that you really read through those essay questions. Ours, our specific essay questions are not just a personal statement. So we don't want to see just a general personal statement that has maybe been used for every application. It's really important to be addressing the questions that we're asking, because we're asking specific things that we want to know, again, to make that match between us and the applicant and make sure that we really are the right program for them. So those, I think, would be the biggest things.
Great. Janice, how about you all?
Yeah, well, I agree with those, obviously. I will say that when people focus too much on that one blip that they may have, maybe it's a GPA, maybe it's this, when they focus too much, it gets too much of our attention. Address it, tell the story, move on, and tell why you are now ready and what your story is. That's a key one for me. And then the second one is, and I think it was said, is, what do you know about us? You can tell when someone's kind of copy and pasting an essay from another school, and that makes you think, or they just seeing, kind of setting it out there and see who jumps on it. No, do your homework and know what you're applying to, and make sure that it's as right for you as it is for us.
Great. All right, John.
I want to thank you all for falling on that sword for what it's worth. This is the right one to go last on, because I don't have to dwell on the negativity. There are a couple of football rivals. No, I'm just kidding. The short answer is authenticity, right? So don't tell us a story that you think we want to hear. And you hear that in the theme that my colleagues have said here, right? Be yourself, be honest. Because the worst thing you can do is try and fake it until you make it. And I know we hear that sometimes in this business, but the reality is, our admission staff is talking to lots of candidates. We're talking to lots of folks who are considering some of the schools that are on the call right here. We know there's a lot of other schools out there that are doing a great job offering an MBA. So come to us if you want to be a part of the University of Florida. Let's have a conversation about whether or not it's a good fit, and let's go from there. But don't make it up, right? Because we can sniff that out, just like I think any admissions officer would tell you. And that's the negative thing that you can do, right? Don't make it up. Be yourself, and we'll go from there.
Great. All right. We've got a little bit more than a minute left, maybe less than a minute by the time I go through this. But for the last question, it's going to be a quick round robin. In one word, I want you all to describe your online MBA programs. So just one word to describe your OMBA program. Who's feeling brave that I should pick first? Let's see. Let's go with John. He looks ready.
Always ready. It's right here behind me on my banner. Transformational. So when we talk about our MBA, when we talk about our online MBA, it's a tool, it's an opportunity, it's an experience that will change your life. And we highly recommend anybody who's wanting to know about the University of Florida reach out, because we're happy to have that conversation.
All right. Great. Larissa, Minnesota.
Yeah, this is a hard one. I usually go with robust. I think robust is a good descriptor, as you're following the same curriculum as our part-time and full-time students. So it is very much in line with a robust and program.
You handled that well. That was great. All right, Laura.
All right, mine is no compromises. I know that's 2 words, but I've got to go with it because it's kind of our theme. And it's just that you don't have to give anything up by doing the MBA online at UNC. You're going to get the same rigorous program that you're going to get in a full-time program, an executive program, whatever. So no compromises.
It's a little cheating, but with the Michael Jordan background, we'll give it to you.
Thank you.
All right, Janice.
I'm going to go with engaged. So many times we think we can hide behind a screen, but even for our online program, I don't think it's way beyond the screen. So I'm going with engaged.
All right. Thanks to all of you for being here. Thanks for your time. I know you all are busy. We really appreciate it. Thanks for humoring me on the last question. And again, this is the Poets and Quants Backstage Online MBA event. Go to poetsandquants.com, go to our Online MBA hub to check out school profiles and a bunch of content on online MBAs. Thanks, everyone.